And if you want to share it, feel free. We can take the first couple of minutes if you do want to go to Facebook. It's up to you.
How do I do that?
Okay, so just go to Facebook and then
Hello.
go to your page because I tagged you in it,
Uh-huh.
right? And then go to the thing with our flyer on it. Share it, feel free.
Okay.
So hear me.
Right. Okay. Oh, you know what? I see it.
And then just share it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Good. And so, yeah, so we already got one viewer. Greetings, greetings. We're getting ready to discuss Black hair politics in a minute with the Ryan D. Davis, Ashe. We were very excited about that, but we were just sharing to our pages first. And now we're about to go on and get started. Feel free to jump in the comments. Let us know who you are. Let us know who's watching, who's engaging with us. And we'll go on and get started. Ashe. So, welcome to another episode of Educeumm with your host, Empress B here. I'm really excited today. I've known Ryan. Surprisingly, I was thinking about like when I met you, and I was like, dang, I've known Ryan for most of my life. And technically we related now. You know what I'm saying? Wow. I was thinking about the connections. I was like, whoa, okay, so we family. Yeah. but first let me tell you about Educeumm, right? So Educeumm is a created discussion-based conversations based on the root word of educate, which is educe, which means to bring out. So the idea is a lot of the content and stuff that we need is already in us, but we need to have these conversations to bring it out so we can really think about it and dissect it and break it down. Okay. But let's go ahead and jump into it. This is another episode of 20 or so dope Black men I know on Educeumm, because I know so many dope Black men. And the reason I love having these conversations is because a lot of times when you see Black men and women together, they're either pitting us against each other or we're having sex, right? So I love Ryan. I think he's amazing. I think his wife is amazing. I love the babies. You know what I'm saying? We have a nephew, right? So there are all kinds of ways that we connect and have always have excellent discussions when we're together, right? For whatever reason, the brain just automatically goes there and we dissecting it 20 different ways, right? So I'm really, really excited to introduce Ryan. But first, I'm going to tell you how I know Ryan, and then I'll let him introduce himself because he can tell about himself much better than I can. So I know Ryan because we went to college together, undergraduate. We both went to Lake Forest College. I had no idea that anybody from Arkansas even went to Lake Forest, let alone a Black person. Right. So I didn't even know Ryan was there until I knew he was there, but I didn't know he was from Arkansas and Black until he was about to graduate. Right. So he was getting ready to leave. And then it was like, you know, Ryan was from Little Rock. No, I didn't know that. Yeah. It would have been nice to know. But anyway, but the way I met Ryan, my freshman year, I get there, Catherine, who now owns this major predominantly Black cheerleading squad in the Chicago area. They've been all over the news. They're very competitive. They're amazing. Anyway, back in college, she was over the cheerleading squad. Nobody wanted to be on cheerleading for whatever reason. So she forced me to participate. And so, long story short, back in the day, they had those disposable cameras that you never knew what the pictures looked like. They were like paper on the outside, right? So I left my camera on the bleachers because it was time for me to perform, right? So I went, did my thing. I come back. Ryan and all the Black kids is like on the row next to me. And I'm just like, hey, excited. Black kids, I'm a freshman. What's up? Because we went to a predominantly white school, right? Very few Black people. Okay. Big deal, right. Big deal to see Black people, especially like a congregation of them. Okay. So anyway, long story short, Ryan, I catch him with my camera taking pictures of the crew. And I don't know him. He's never met. He's never said hello. How are you? He don't know who camera this is. He don't know who stuff this is. Ryan just went but at the time, everybody had disposable cameras, so I'm not really sure if he picked up my camera or if it was his camera. So I think when I see him, it's like, whatever. Let me I get my pictures back. I got like 15 pictures of Ryan and his friends. Oh my! What?
Look, long story short, I saw you leave that camera there.
And he felt like I needed some pictures of him in my life, him and all his friends, like some memories. But I got those pictures somewhere, and I'm gonna give them to you one day. That's right.
Oh wow, I can't even.
I do have them. I have them somewhere. I know you, Kevin. I can't remember who else was in there, but I know that definitely you and Kevin where it was like right there acting goofy on all the pictures. Yes. But that's how I know Ryan goes back. We go back that long. I think I was 18 or 19 when that happened. It was my freshman year in college, right? 37 now. I say. Yes. But I'm gonna let Ryan introduce himself. But that was my introduction to Ryan a very long time ago. But since then, he's come to speak at my at lectures, at workshops that I've had, conferences I've had, as well as to my students, right? He's done amazing conversations when he's come to my class, engaged with my students, been very even. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times people will come and they feel kind of hoity when they come, feel very, right? Ryan, everybody feels relaxed immediately, and then he speaks to them on a very intellectual level, which makes them want to use their language and stuff that they've learned. You know what I'm saying? They want to throw out their language as well, and it's beautiful every time because Ryan don't really know what's happening, but I see them using their language. I'm like, okay, well, I see you. Okay. So thank you for that. But Ryan has, anytime I ask, he's always ready. So I'm very, very grateful for him and for that first introduction a very long time ago. I'm going to let you introduce yourself now.
Hey, thank you, China. First off, for including me in this. I'm well, especially because I know it's not flattery. I know I don't imagine you call several folks and they turn you down. So I feel good. And when China started college, I was in my 5th year of undergrad. What you might call a super senior.
I say.
And partly because I spent some time on the front end kind of goofing off, but also partly because I did a little study abroad, and that took up some of my time and money and all that stuff. But I'm glad to have met China in that context because, not only were there not a lot of Black kids, there were very few Black kids from the South at that college, and China brought with her not only herself, but a lot of artistic and Afro-cultural cachet that her mother and her grandmother also brought to that campus. Mm-hmm. That Tim Anthony, you know what I'm saying? I met Tim Anthony when I was in high school. So when he showed up in the middle of a Chicago winter on our campus, I almost flipped out. And, so that was, that's kind of one of the highlights of college, kind of seeing that. And because of course, while I was there, I was the only person from Arkansas, the only Black person rather from Arkansas. So according to everybody there, I was the countryest person they ever met. So
right. Right. Then we go home and we're super proper. So it's a conundrum.
Yeah. But as far as introductions, no, I'll say this much. I think China did a fine job already introducing me. And so I'll just add to that of the things that I am, the things most primary and important to me are I'm a African-centered Christian, self-identifying man, father, husband, and citizen. Those are important identifiers for me. Outside of all of the other stuff. I'm a minister in the CME Church. I'm the director of community programs at UA Little Rock. But those things are most easily shed. The other identifiers I can't shed. I can't shed my Blackness. I cannot shed my Black-centered liberation theology that comes out in the way I practice my faith. I can't shed, God forbid I should shed the responsibilities and the connections to my own family. So I'm all of those things first, foremost, and proudly. And so I've seen some of the other dope Black men. I hope I can come off as dope as some of them.
I say, you fit right in there. I say, shout out to Dar Earhart, Darnisha. I know you know Dar, but she said, "Hey, what's up?" Yes. So I just wanted to say hello. But I want to go ahead and jump into the conversation. So I'm about to share my screen, and it's okay. You just gotta keep it on mute. I did the same thing. But I want to go ahead and share my screen and show you guys how the conversation started. So I'll talk about it a little bit first. So I'm often on Facebook, and a lot of times I see stuff on Facebook and it'll remind me of somebody, and I'll send it to them in Messenger. But lately I've been tagging them and just posting it on Facebook, right? I'll tag them and I share it on Facebook because really I want to start having conversations about these things that ignite, it's something in my mind. And so I tagged and said, Ryan, we should have a conversation on Educeumm. He said, let's do it. So here we are. So I want to share with you that initial post. I'm going to get ready to share my screen, and I'm just going to read it to you briefly. And we're going to go from there. Okay. And Ryan, you're going to have to let me know what you can see, because it's always, I can't never see nothing on this side. Here we go. Okay.
I see your Facebook page.
Okay, awesome. So this is here we go. So this is what I initially posted or shared with Ryan. And so it was this post, and I think I might have tagged at the top, at Ryan Davis, been rocking locks since I knew him, and I've known this man since I was 19, right? But this conversation is talking about an influx that or a trend that is happening currently or contemporarily with Black wealthy men, right? So she said, somebody posted something like, why do Black men, right, combing their hair when they become successful? They have reached a level of success where they no longer have to play into the acceptable Negro aesthetic, and they have paved the way for little Black boys. Accepting natural hair isn't just for our daughters, Ashe. It's for our sons too. We take them to the barber at the first opportunity and teach them that fades and waves are the epitome of professionalism. When do they learn to love their textures and curls? I really hope y'all decolonize y'all's minds soon. Shout out to Kiana Bradgett Robinson. I don't know who you are, but I got the post and I love your response, right? And even though I've been seeing this trend, right, in hair, it looks like we might have lost Ryan. Even though I've been seeing this trend in hair, oh, there we go. Even though I've been seeing this trend in hair, when she said Black hair politics is for men too, that really synchronated with me. Because when I think of the Crown Act and things of that nature, Black men are not the first thing that comes to mind, even though in the military, Black men cannot wear locks. They have to cut their hair off immediately. You know what I'm saying? But for whatever reason, I think of women when I think of newscasters and Black people going through this particular hair experience, right? Men was not the first thing that popped into my mind. But then when I saw that post, I was like, wow, Ryan, you know what I'm saying? Since I've known Ryan, he's wore freestyle or freeform natural locks, right? Not those that you got to roll each individual one. You know what I'm saying? We let them go how they come out the head. So I thought that was really powerful, and I wanted to tag you immediately. I'm sure one more thing, and then we're gonna So then I was doing a little research, because I always do a little research before we get started, and I found this, right? It's called fatherly.com. I will share it in the post, but it says when Black hair is celebrated, Black boys face danger, right? So long story short, this is a Black barber. He's interesting. He said he induced jerry curls and sculpted high tops, right? So but he doesn't bring that work with, he's induced jerry curls and sculpted high tops, but he doesn't bring that work home with him. A father of 3 sons, Singleton gives his boys simple haircuts that are sometimes at odds with their desires for more outrageous looks. Singleton believes hair is a way his boys can present themselves better. Okay? He believes this matters. He believes he's doing his sons a service. Then scroll down farther. It's a you know what? I'm not gonna read the whole article. I ain't gonna do that to you. But it's an amazing article, right? It's a really dope article. Y'all should read it. I did talk a little bit before this session with it about Ryan. So I just kind of wanted you guys to know kind of where we're kind of grounding some of our arguments from, but also from experience, right? And just having lived this actual experience. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we're going to jump into a conversation. Feel free to drop your comments, questions, or anything of that nature in the chat box, and we will definitely respond. Okay. I'm gonna let you go first, Ryan, unless you want me to start.
Go ahead.
I say, for sure. It's my show, right? So I guess when it comes to Black hair politics, like I was just saying, when you think of things like the Crown Act, I always thought of women first, particularly being a Black woman who has been natural for a very, very long time, right? I just have sensitive scalp. My hair falls out super easy. So, like, I've been wearing almost bald fades since I was about 5, you know what I'm saying? But in middle school, in the 8th grade, that was the first time I cut it like all the way off. And I pretty much kept a low cut from 8th grade through college. And whenever I locked my hair after I had my daughter, I've always had short hair, a fade to a fro. And in that, I've mostly encountered negativity from my own community, right? I like growing up as a younger person, like usually in my own community is where I faced a lot of backlash for my natural hair, right? And particularly from girls, right? Girls were really, really mean when I was younger, especially when I started dating. They'd be thinking, why you want to be with her? She ugly, she bald headed. They always wanted to talk about my hair, right? When it came to something, they wanted to cut me down in some way. My hair was the first thing that they would go to. So when I was around white people, it didn't really matter what their opinion was because Black people had already told me that my hair wasn't acceptable, and not all Black people. Let me also be clear about that. Because at the same token, I've always had Black men and women in particularly tell me, sup, queen, from the time I was very young, because I've always had natural hair. So they've always referred to me in that manner. You see what I'm saying? So I've always been referred to, like literally, I would have like random people with natural hair loss just come up and tell me how beautiful I am. You know what I'm saying? Probably knowing spiritually that I've been going through something, right? Knowing that other people have always been attacking me for my hair. So I needed to be uplifted. I didn't know that when I was little. So what it did to me was very satisfying and soothing, right? So when people did give me that hate, I already had enough love, And then my mom was positive and I had other people around me who wore short hair, who were women, right? And who were professional. So I don't know. Has your experience been like in the beginning?
I'm gonna say this just kind of in relation to what you said is hair the way we wear it is a little bit more normalized now.
Mm-hmm.
You see far more people. You see Gwendolyn Eiffel, who's the head of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, who wears her hair naturally, wears her hair in locks rather, and I usually like to name 3. 3 is a good solid number, but I thought of her immediately. Folks like her. But I mean, then again, I imagine that there's a certain culture at LDF because I've met some of the other attorneys at LDF. Our good friend Omabi Shakur is at the Legal Defense Fund, and so there's a culture there where that is acceptable. I don't imagine that was the case back when Thurgood Marshall was at the Legal Defense Fund.
Mm-hmm.
I don't imagine that was the case in 1980s at the Legal Defense Fund. And so, my own personal experiences, I began to lock my hair, if you will, or to twist it up toward it, kind of growing wildly on its own. Back in, I remember actually when it happened, I was sitting on the floor at my grandmother's house, Thanksgiving 1996. This was, Thanksgiving 1995. And my cousin Karen, who now has locks down in Huntsville, Alabama, she's a couple years older than me. She's visiting from Jackson State where she was in school. And so I was twisting. She said, you should twist it all up. I'll help you. So we twisted all my hair up. And I remember coming to school and at Little Rock Central High School. And, I already kind of didn't really give I almost said a bad word. I already didn't really care what people thought. But I was rather surprised at the amount of people who felt the need to share their opinion with me about my hair. And I mean, that's both good and, the good opinions and the mostly bad opinions. I remember Mrs. Blevins. We know Ebony Blevins, the photographer. Everybody knows Ebony. But I remember Mrs. Blevins, and she had what I always thought of as like an Afro crown. Almost, man. I mean, it was beautiful.
Yes, it was beautiful.
TV crown, and she on regular occurrences told me how much she liked my hair. you know. But I mean, for a lot of folks, that was typical. Of course, she's gonna say it. Look how she's wearing her hair. You know what I'm saying? And you know, but I actually do. I not actually do. This is no surprise, but I definitely concur with you that had I been a girl child, a woman, that you know, I probably would have felt the brunt of that a lot more, because the politicization of black hair has probably, and I think we can say for sure that it's been more pronounced with black women. You think about from the time that black people were brought to these shores enslaved, one of the first things they did to those people was that they cut their hair off. Now, some of it was functional, because if we Africans are animals to you, then you shave down the animal's head to deal with any licentiousness or any messiness and stuff like that. It was a matter of function, but also it was a matter of stripping folks' culture away, because Africans have always adorned their hair. Africans have always used their hair as adornment. There's a good movie Patrick Oliver put me on to back when I was in high school called 400 Years Without a Comb. It's about an hour and 20-minute documentary. This is not the documentary produced by Sony. I mean, it's not in high def, and it's not, it looks like it was done the way it was done. But the research connected to it is really great. Now, the title can be misleading if you want to take it literally. It's not literally about not having a comb, but it's really about the politics and culture of black hair. And so, again, I was introduced to this in high school around the time that I was doing my locks and stuff like that. And so I was armed against any type of criticism. But even with being armed against criticism, you can't avoid how people will treat you because of the way you look. And, China, you talked about folks, getting it from black folks. I mean, I have folks in my family to this day who are just amazed that I can hold down a job and still have my hair locked.
Okay.
Hold down the types of jobs that I've been able to get and still wear my hair locked. Had a relative a few years ago said, well, I see you keep your hair in a ponytail, so from the front it don't look like you. And I was like, that's not the reason. But people will project on you their fears about what people might think about them. And you know what? I can't fall out with folks about that, because this is a part of a conditioning that happened to, that continues to happen to black folks in this country. I remember a lady who was an attorney who told me, I went to a workshop that she was doing at the law school. She said that, I would never hire you, no matter how brilliant you are. I would never hire you to be an attorney in my firm, because I can't have you down in Miller County. I'm saying Miller, I don't remember what county she said, but I couldn't have you down in Miller County representing some of my clients in front of these racist judges. And, I thought about that, and I thought, well, I mean, I guess as a matter of function, maybe that makes sense. I guess, that, but then the other part of me thought, maybe it makes sense on the functional level, but in reality, this is capitulation to racism.
It is.
And that's just what it is. And it even better, there's someone who was in the I'm a minister in the CME church. Used to be colored. That C used to stand for colored, but they had the presence of mind to change that from colored in 1954 to Christian. So the CME church, we work as ministers in an itinerant fashion, whereby on an annual basis there are appointments made, and you could be or could not be appointed to this or that place. And one person who was at some kind of sort of in charge of that process, I'm not gonna name no names or offices, but he told me, he said, you're a brilliant preacher, a good administrator, and I could use you anywhere. And, part of me wants to be like, it's not about you using me, it's about God using me. But anyway, we'll leave that be. But he's, I could use you anywhere, but I just don't know that folks will be able to accept you or to, I can't remember how he termed it, China. But basically his point was, if you're willing to cut your hair, right. And I'm stuff like, and and it's disappointing, but it's also, again, not the kind of disappointing that that brings any kind of deep sadness to me, because again, I realize how conditioned Black folks have been. I mean, you think down the line of history, and you look at the politics of Black hair. You look at even some of the health related and the wellness related struggles. I don't know if people saw the Madam C.J. Walker biopic that was on maybe a year or so ago
on Netflix.
Yeah, and I got a lot of criticisms, good and bad, of that, but that's not the point. The point is that in her biography, which that movie was partly based on, her I believe her great granddaughter, last name Duster, and I apologize because I can't remember her first name, but Miss Duster, who wrote that. Oh Lord, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Ida B. Wells. Malcolm C.J. Walker has a great biography that's written, and I'm on the slide, look it up.
I say.
But in that biography, part of what motivated Miss Breedlove and what made her successful was the fact that she was able to concoct something that made Black hair healthy. I mean, a lot of folks want to blame her for introducing a straightening process for hair. And we can leave that and we can discuss that. But I think even more so, her primary concern was the health of Black hair, because the market was not geared toward healthy Black hair,
right,
in America. And so, and it's weird because it went from, over the course of 100-year period, from the time of Madam C.J. Walker until about now, you see the cycle of the Black hair care business go from almost solidly Black until these folks started realizing how much money was being made. We're talking about billions of dollars per year, to almost being solidly white. I remember even in my day, I sound like I'm 100 years old, but when I was younger, I remember you could buy products and it had that image of what they call the proud lady on the back of it. And
yes.
You remember that?
I do.
And that signified to you that you were buying a hair care product from a wholly Black owned.
Yes.
You don't really see that. You don't really see that.
Right. Pause, because you're about to make me think about 20 more things, and I got 20 things I want to say. First, shout out to Freeman. He said a while ago, call all demons by their name, and I already know what he talking about. And it's funny that he came on and commented when he said that, because we were literally just talking about Freeman, Fred, and Fatima. We were just having a conversation about all three of y'all before we start the conversation. Then Sika said something that I literally was thinking. She was like, but didn't her initial process straighten it without chemically altering it? Yes. I was about to say, Madam C.J. Walker used a hot comb. That wasn't the same thing as putting this creamy crack on your head. And I'm sorry, because I don't want to seem like I'm biased. It's putting this process on this chemical that can literally burn through your scalp, through your skin, on your head. You see what I'm saying? That you have to leave on there, that will melt cans. Okay, but anyway, it was a very different process, and it did move from something that was health oriented, that's something that became more focused on money when it stopped being in Black ownership, which is what I think Ryan's point was, right? When it stopped being Black owned, right? When it kind of came out of our hands, the whole purpose of it changed as well, right? It no longer was healthy for our hair. It was no longer beneficial, right? Because they weren't worried about that anymore, right? And then you start seeing all of these synthetics and crazy chemicals put into all of these ingredients, right? And so, but now we're making another turn again, right? We starting to make our own product, Ashe. And if we're not making it, we know about 20 people who make some. I know about 50 people that make body butter now. You know what I'm saying? I make body butter and all kinds of hair products, but I go buy it as well. Good, because I just like to support my folks when they come out with some new body butter, you know?
Shout out to Joseph Davis who make a bomb.
I say
scalp cure.
There we go. You know.
Yeah.
You know? We got all the cures now. And the crazy thing is half of the cures in that, and we really do, because I don't know if I was said it earlier, but I suffer from alopecia. So the type of alopecia that I have is stress induced. It took me a long time to figure that out. I almost took 30 to know what was causing my hair to fall out. But my hair breaks out in low patches, and I found that natural organic remedies are the things that heal my hair the fastest, right? As opposed to all these products that my mom used to try to get me to get because we went to the doctor, you know what I'm saying, when I was in middle and high school, you know. So it's very interesting that you said that. Something else that you said earlier when we were talking about, when you were using your example from the CME church, right? I think it's interesting because I sometimes don't realize how that fear permeates so many different parts of our life. You know what I'm saying? Not only the fear of, you know, wearing your hair naturally for how you will be seen and, you know, interacted with in public, but like I was having I work with a program, and there was a kid, he was writing a story. We were supposed to redo stories. So he redid Little Red Robin Hood, but he was going to be a kid in his hood going to go do something else. But the teacher automatically was like, whoa, I don't know if we can have black boys in hoods. You know what I'm saying? Really? Because out of fear, though, right? We just watched how many black men die back to back to back to back to back, right? So not trying to limit him, not trying to, but I want my baby safe. You 6. I don't know if it's safe for you to be outside 6 and black in a hood, even if you are writing a story. You know what I'm saying? And that is terrifying. But that's also the thing with the hair politic. You know what I'm saying? Yes, you could wear you, but that limits your job opportunity. That limits your opportunity at finding a husband, China. That limits your opportunity at whatever, you know? And so it limits your opportunity to respectability. We get all of these limiters placed on us because we have to fit all these confinements as black people. Me being, you know, kind and charismatic and charming and smart, you know what I'm saying? Having all these degrees, raising my baby, building my own stuff, it's not enough. It's not enough. I have to be more.
And that's you know, that fear is unfortunately, I think, intrinsic to black folks, because, you know, in that instance with the church, we're talking about what a lot of folks term as the most independent institution in our communities. And so if in a church that is in an institution like that is completely independent from the white gaze, if you're now presiding,
break that down a little bit more, because I just caught what you said, you know what I'm saying? And yeah. So break down the independence and the importance of the black church being independent and still being worried about the white gaze. Please, just a little bit more.
And still perpetrating those. So, you know, I think there's less a sting, if a sting exists, to hear that from a black woman who is an attorney who's hung out her own shingle. She has her own firm. Because somebody might say, well, this is your firm. You can hire somebody with locks if you want to. But then her reasoning would be, well, I can't send nobody down to these racist judges in Yale County or whatever with locks on their head, you know, and she can say that and it comes across as legitimate. But the church on the other hand, now this is what it's supposed to be anyway.
You just had a question in the comment box. They asked gays, Joyce Camacho. She asked, could you explain what you mean by white gays?
And I'm sorry, because I'm not used to having several screens set up. That's my aunt.
I say.
Carmouche. Now I'm gonna say this as an aside. If you ever need, she's a professor of criminal justice at Eastern Kentucky University, and so just bear in mind that whenever you need an expert, somebody who has years of experience working within the Federal Bureau of Prisons and bringing that knowledge to bear in those instructional spaces. So the white gaze, where we prioritize, white standards, where we prioritize white people, whether we do it knowingly or unknowingly, I think that, sometimes, I'm at the age now where I do wish the young men would pull their pants up, but I also acknowledge that some of the reasons we want those pants to be pulled up is because we're concerned about the gaze of white people, the literal and figurative gaze of white people and white culture and white standards and white ways of being, in this country. Code switching is, no matter how much of a necessity it is an acknowledgement of the white gaze. One of my favorite poets, Sterling Plump, publishes a lot through Third World Press. If you go into his class, I mean, you would think that you were listening to, a Mississippi sharecropper. But of course he is at if not historically, he's at Chicago State, a very predominantly Black school. I mean, I don't imagine it's something, that could happen in other places. I don't know, but he's tenured, so who's to say? But and I'm sorry because I hope I explained that almost well enough.
Good. Yeah, dope. For sure. Did that stop your train of thought? A little bit.
And I'm trying to think about, I think a lot of, you know what? Goodness gracious alive. I'm trying to think of the Toni Morrison essay, really where we get a lot of that. I mean, Toni Morrison spent a lot of time. I'll tell you something I enjoyed about Toni Morrison, and I'm sorry, I feel like I'm getting off the subject, but I got to say this, is that Toni Morrison, in not a single novel did she center white people or white places. And, I thought that was funny. There's a conservative, so-called conservative op-ed writer, Charles Krauthammer, who used to publish a lot in the local rag here. But he talked about how, I remember his criticism of the movie Malcolm X, that there were no redeemable white people in that movie. And he said in that, kind of on the sly, something that is similarly mirrored in the writing of Toni Morrison. And I thought that was really weird for a white man in particular to be so salty because Toni Morrison didn't put no good white people in her books, And I always thought Charles Krauthammer was full of more shit than a Christmas turkey as it is. I thought that was extremely small, especially you being, a white man who's so empowered that you got op-eds being published with your tired ass opinions all over the country, but you worried about, whether or not, Toni Morrison's going to put a nice white shopkeeper in the next novel or so. But I'm saying all that to say that, white gaze, and this is germane to our discussion about here, but Toni Morrison analyzes whiteness in literature quite a bit. And there's a quote. She says, "What happens to the writerly imagination of a Black author who is at some level always conscious of representing one's race to, or in spite of, a race of readers that understands itself to be the universal or race-free?" And so, I love that Toni Morrison's characters are nappy-headed. They have straight hair. They're fat. They're skinny. They're tall. They're ignorant. They're nice. They're petty. You know what I'm saying? And so, I mean, she gives us a wide and panoramic view of Black people. And I think, in our discussion of hair, we have to talk about that because people, you talk about somebody like James Brown or Cab Calloway, who are known in part, one, for their good music and their brilliance in connection to music. James Brown wasn't a lyricist, but the lyrics that he put together, come on.
I say.
And the arrangements he put together, come on. But James Brown wore the conquerling, you know what I'm saying? He had a fried, dyed, laid tooth with Cab Calloway. And so, I think about that because I think on the one hand, I think about, another thing Andre 3000 said is every, I ain't gonna say that on here, if every ninja with dreads for the cause and is every ninja with gold for the fall. Then it said, don't get caught up in appearances. It's Outcast Aquemini, another Black experience. The Black experience expands the panorama of everything, including hair. James Brown was just as empowering with his, his conquerling as he was without it. I mean, Black people have always stylized and have always stylized our hair and have always adorned ourselves in the way that we do our hair, you know. And so, you know, I think that there's something endemic in this idea of hair straightening and so on and so forth. But I think even with black straight hair, you know what I'm saying? Shanae, let's pretend like she's a real person. She's all right. She was, you know, she didn't. Well, let me not use Shanae. Let's talk about Miles Davis. You know what I'm saying? You know, when Bitches Brew came out, you know, Miles Davis had, I don't know if that was a Jerry curl or what that was. He had a long Duke kit on his head, or, you know, I'm just not sure what that was that Miles Davis was doing. But, you know, I don't know that we can always make the connection between, you know, the way you and I wear our hair, China, the way my mother wears her hair, the way your mother wears her hair, and racial purity and our pride. And I'm not saying anybody, certainly not us, are doing that, but I don't know if we can or should make that connection, because there's no causal link between it. Now, are there women out here who are straightening their hair because they believe that, you know, it puts them closer to a standard of beauty that is Western, or because they believe that it'll help them to advance, or because they don't believe in being nappy headed? Certainly there are, 100%, you know. But then at the same time, I have to remember that Betty Shabazz wore her hair straight. I have to remember that Coretta King wore her hair straight. And in a bouffant, she had the big hair before Oprah did. You know what I'm saying? That Fannie Lou Hamer, you know, had her hair did before she went to Africa.
I was saying for sure.
Yeah. So, you know, I try to be careful, you know, when I talk about that, because I don't want to mix medicines here. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. I was also going to say, I think to add to that, right? We Black people, we come in such a variety. Our hair textures, you know what I'm saying, come from everything from bone straight to kink. You know what I'm saying? So I remember specifically, and I don't know why this has always stuck with me, but it really did, because I feel like she almost had the same hair experience I did being natural. But anyway, in graduate school, one of my cohort members, her name is Stephanie. Anyway, she's very dark skinned. She's from Louisiana. She has a very thick accent, you know what I'm saying? But she's very dark, very chocolate brown, and she always wore her hair parted right here in the middle and bone straight. Okay, like bone straight every day, like she just got the creamy crack off her head, bone straight every single day. Okay, and so one day, I don't know, just in conversation, because, you know, girls talking. I was like, I don't know, maybe I asked her if she perm her hair. I don't know what I asked her. I asked her something about her hair. She was like, oh, I just perm it, right? Then, like, this is when we first met. After we've known each other, like, we're almost about to graduate. Maybe we got like 6-7 months, I don't know, to graduation. It was a 2-year program, something like that. Somehow we had a conversation about her hair again, and I just happened to see, and it was very clear that she has soft hair, right? She don't do nothing but blow dry her hair in the morning. If she do that, she just wake up, her hair soft. Her hair literally is bone straight. Then she showed us pictures when she was younger, like looking just like herself, like 3-4 years old, with two pigtails, with bone straight hair coming out, looking like a Black Indian. You know what I'm saying? Looking like a little baby doll. But she literally lied to me, because she's had this whole history of when she tells Black women that her hair naturally looks like this grows out of her head, it's a whole something. You know, and so there are so many, we have so many different textures of hair, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes we think people are perming their hair, and they're not perm. They're not doing anything to their hair, you know what I'm saying? Or some people are just blow drying it. And so I said that to say, some people have different textures of hair where they can wear it straight all the time and they don't have to process it, right? Or things of that nature, right? Somebody just wrote, Joyce, say her last name again. Carmouche. Okay. A natural hair is very hard to maintain. You have to have a lot of manual dexterity. Sometimes it's just easier to straighten. And as a Black woman who has had natural hair for most of her life, I would almost argue the opposite, right? I think that it's harder for people who have not had natural hair because you haven't had it. You know what I'm saying? For me, I think at this point, if I did want to have a perm, it would be because I have to keep up with the perm. I have to get it on. So I do think it's hard to learn anything new. You know what I'm saying? We've been used to getting perms and stuff for so long. Now you have to learn a whole new skill set, you know? So I do agree. It is a lot of work. You got to learn your hair texture. You got to learn what your hair likes. And it can be expensive. You know what I'm saying? And I also agree it's a lot of work. But I think that perms can be a lot of work too. And I had particularly sensitive scalp. So every time I got a perm, my scalp would be covered in blisters, right? Which was very painful, right? So I think that takes a lot of dexterity as well. I think it just depends on which way you're coming from. But I have heard the argument a lot that people feel that natural hair in general is more difficult. But I think that's because we're further removed from it, if that makes sense.
I remember my mother cut her hair down to about fade level in 1993.
Wow.
And, right. You would have thought that, you know, she, based on the way some of the members of our family reacted, you know what I'm saying, you would have thought she was out there beating up kids or something like that. You know. But you know, her hairstyle is, you know, what some folks might call a Caesar, if you will. I mean, it's just the, you know, low cuttings lined up and stuff. And I mean, you know, so you know, now as for me, my maintenance consists of the occasional scalp scratching and washing and stuff like that or whatever. And so, you know, I've seen some folks out here with some beautiful locks, and I know that you know, they really put a lot of time, effort, and money into maintaining them and stuff like that or whatever. And so, but I agree. You know, it's I guess it's a matter of style in general. And you know, but I think we have to hold space open. And well, you know, and I think we have to realize, even if we don't hold space open, sometimes we just need to trap our mouths about people's choices.
For sure.
Here, because you know, it can be dogmatic on both sides of the equation. You know, people will make an assumption about folks with straight hair that there's a pride issue, or that there's a we had a whole conversation. I know kind of somebody we both love and admire, Dr. Judy Dozier. We had a whole conversation in her class. She did this class me and my former roommate like to believe it's because we requested it, but I think it was probably already in the works. But she did a class, Black Literature of the 1960s. So we got on the discussion about hair because, I mean, that was another political moment around you know, hair and hairstyles with the popularity of the Afro and such coming into existence. But you know, it kind of got to be a heated conversation, and it was weird because you're in a very predominantly white school. You inevitably have, you know, white kids in any of the classes. So I mean, like, the class was kind of split in half. Was split in thirds. A third was the white people who had no idea what we were talking about, and didn't want to say nothing. Then you had another third, you know, who was saying you can't make it in this world unless you do your hair in a way that's going to be acceptable in corporate suites. And then you had another third who was saying, you know, y'all going to a white hell if you keep, you know, straightening your hair, you know.
Dang.
And so folks can get kind of dogmatic about it.
Nobody was on the Black people's side. Wasn't no liberal whites in the
room. No, they was being quiet. They which I think they probably, you know, they did the right thing, you know. But then and I say third, maybe that it was fourths, and then you know, it was about a few of us who were just kind of like, you know, why can't people wear their hair the way they want to?
That's right.
You know, and I can I share this with you?
Please.
I was trying to remember where it was, but I finally remember in I think it was maybe like 2018. There was a young lady, little girl actually, at a Catholic school in Louisiana, and she was sent home from school because she had her hair braided into kind of a cornrow style. She was sent home. The parents complained. In response, the Archdiocese of New Orleans, whose superintendent at that time was a white lady, sent a statement home to the family reiterating the school's policy of only permitting students to wear their natural hair. You know, and so, you know, that kind of highlighted for me that you know, white people naturally, because you know, they maintain a certain level of ignorance about anything outside of themselves, have no idea what we're talking about. You know what I'm saying? We're having a very intra-racial discussion about you know, hair and the politics around here. The discussion that's happening outside of the Black community is really about how hair identifies us outside of our households and outside of our communities. Does the cornrows still mean to the folks who would maim and or kill and or arrest and or harass you? Does cornrows still mean thug to them, or are locks more acceptable? I remember back in 2004, because I was still in Chicago at the time, that this lady came up to me and she's like, "Oh my God, you look just like R.J. McQuarters." I believe he was playing for the Bears at the time. And, you know, even at that time, just 15 years ago, there weren't a whole lot of folks playing football who had locks hanging out from under their helmet. I thought the comparison was stupid, because here I am, you know, saying all of 5'7" and not in shape. And I was like, go ahead with it. You know, so, you know, now I do note that you see a whole lot more, you know, professional athletes and folks in positions of professional responsibility, not corporate folks, mind you, who wear their hair in locks. But I'll note even more that you see, I can't think of what the hairstyle is called, but it's kind of shaped up like a bob, and then the young men take the sponge and do it like that. I love to see it, to be completely honest.
Shaped up like a what?
Kind of like a you know, like a little bob, you know, kind of tapered right here.
Yeah. And then they knot it up. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Give me the lingo now. They knotted up. That's
what I call it. I don't know what they call it.
I'm about to call it that too. Then they knotted on up. And you know what I'm saying? I love to see it because you know, they wear it so bravely. Now I think part of that is, of course, because I mean it seems widely accepted and stuff like that. But I often wonder, and maybe I should just ask one of those young men, like, you know, if that's had any I don't know if affect is the right word, but if that's affected them anyway.
That's an amazing way to transition, because that's actually what I was literally just about to talk about, right? So I do understand, and I agree to a certain extent, right? I agree to a certain extent that people should be able to wear their hair the way they want to, but because of who we are and where we are, there is a certain amount of weight that comes with certain types of hairstyles. You're going to have a particular experience, most likely. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what I'm saying, right? So I also, and I'm kind of beating around the bush, I'm sorry, but I also, like, remember my first lock experience, right? So I've tried to lock my hair up quite a few times, right? The first time I wanted to lock my hair up, I remember I was in 10th grade. I remember specifically, I wanted to lock my hair up because I wanted long hair, right? I was one of those people who I had always had fade. I had always had short hair. You know, the longest I had was braids, and I usually didn't have them that long. I usually kept them here because I never had long hair. And to me, here was long. You know what I'm saying? So shoulder length when I say here. Yeah. So long story short, in 10th grade, when I wanted to lock my hair up, it was literally because I wanted long hair. I knew that my hair could grow healthy if I locked it up. But I locked my hair and I went to the whatever summer reggae festival always happens on the river. That used to happen all the time. Do you remember that? So I go to the festival because, you know, Tim's performing or something. So I'm down there with my mom. I'm feeling beautiful, got my locks in my hair. A Rasta man stops me. Peace, queen. How long you been locked? He start asking me questions. I can't answer. Being the person that I am, I feel like I don't deserve my locks. You know what I'm saying? Not like that. I just feel like I need to be a little bit more spiritually grounded. I feel like it's related to a particular culture. I can't just wear them aesthetically. Me personally, after I've had this conversation with, because he asked me questions, you know, and I can't answer. I have no answer to, you know, and so I don't end up letting them lock. I just end up wearing my fro. I don't let them stay. Then I tried to lock my hair up again. I go to this woman because at this point I'm like, you know what? I'm going to lock my hair. I want to lock my hair. I go to this woman. I want to get my hair locked. And she said, what do you know about locks? Do you know about the history of them? Because I just knew not to call them dreadlocks. She literally gave me a pamphlet, Ryan, a pamphlet. A Black woman, before she would lock my hair, gave me a pamphlet. Like not no little 2-pager. Maybe I should say a small book, because that's what it was. It's about a 30-page book on the history of locks and the importance of them, right? So before she would lock my hair, I had to read the whole book. And she asked me questions. And I wasn't mad, but I went through this whole process before I got my first locks. You understand what I'm saying? And now kids out here with all kinds of locks don't care nothing about their locks. Cut them off at the drop of a dime. Oh, I mean the drop. You know what I'm saying? It literally is aesthetic, right? So I can see how for some people who they're. For me, my locks represent my spirituality. I feel like you can look at my lock and you can see my spirit, right? You can see that my things I've been through. You can see trials, tribulation. If you know how to look at locks, if you understand energy, if you understand spirituality, if you don't understand any of that, you can't see any of that, but you can't touch my lock. That's right. You know? And so I say all that because I do understand why some people feel certain ways about locks. And hair has always been tied to politics. Somebody type in the chat box, can you speak on the Afro pushback of the 60s and 70s? We know how hair was tied to the 60s and 70s. We know about the Mao movement. You know what I'm saying? We know about Rasta culture and other cultures that are tied to natural hairstyles for Black people, right? So now we're saying that none of those cultures and hairstyles don't mean anything. We can just do whatever we want with our hair. I know that's not what we're saying, but we're about to test it.
Yeah. I mean, like I think, certainly for Rastafarians, for people who begin to explore and deal with Black cultural nationalism in the 1960s and 70s, that they were making a very deliberate, I don't know that the Rastafarians rather would say that they were making a political it certainly affected the politics of Rastafarianism in the Caribbean and East Africa, where some of them settled. So I mean, people were making a very deliberate decision to wear an afro, and Angela Davis talks about in her biography when she made the decision to I was going to say to afro her hair. I don't know if that's what you call that process, but when she made the decision to
go natural,
but she also talked about in later times how she was insulated really from a lot of the criticism that other folks may have gotten, because she was saying like, it was less a dangerous political decision in, where she was. She was at an elite, college.
Mm-hmm.
She eventually went on to an elite doctoral program with the same afro, but she was saying that it was less a dangerous political calculation than had she been a day laborer on somebody's farm in Mississippi, or had she been somebody who she said this specifically because one of her parents, I can't remember which one, was a public school teacher in Birmingham, Alabama. Where she grew up on Dynamite Hill, not coincidentally, very close to Condoleezza Rice. Isn't that something? I thought that was a weird dichotomy. These two women, I mean, you look at them, you look at their politics, you even look at their style, but they both came from Dynamite Hill in Birmingham and went from there to teach at elite colleges in California. Couldn't be far apart. But she talked about, if she were a public school teacher or if she taught a college in Alabama and not in California, would that be an option? And not necessarily would it be an option, because of course you could just have an afro, but would it be the kind of option that wouldn't be met with resistance? But then again, you look at Angela Davis's FBI file. One of the things that they do note about her, J. Edgar Hoover and all of his foolishness, white supremacy and perversions. One of the things he does note about her is the fact that she wears an afro. She's easily identified by that. One of the things she did when she was on the run was that she wore a wig over her afro. Now, I mean, that's a matter of concealing yourself
for sure.
from
yeah, protect, but it was easy fix, right? Because they looking for a fro, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, and so and I'm sorry, Tan, I think I'm running past the discussion point.
No, you're fine. We good. This is my show. We got to go. You got to go. Yeah.
Yeah. but it's you know, I think I forgot where I was headed with that.
You were saying that she wore a wig because the FBI or J. Edgar Hoover in his file said that she was easily identifiable by her fro. So when she went on the run, she wore a wig, but that was for those purposes of being in covert.
Yeah.
Covert, yes. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, even members of the Black Panther Party. I mean, you know, they were very anti-cultural nationalism. I mean, they were you know, they were committed Maoist, Leninist. You know, what I'm saying Marxist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what I'm saying they were the vanguard of they were vanguard revolutionaries. So they were not cultural nationalists per se. But even for them, you know, you look at the leadership of the Black Panther Party, especially if you look at the women like Elaine Brown, like Kathleen Cleaver. You look at folks who were at the forefront like George Jackson, Bobby Seale, Huey Newton.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Even the way Fred Hampton wore his hair, you know what I'm saying? So I mean, that was a political choice. And so you have to wonder, is this an acceptance of a particular thing, or is it a rejection of a particular thing? Or is it both? You know, is this you deliberately saying, I'm doing this because I want to reject these particular Western standards of beauty, or is this you saying, I'm doing this because I accept this as a standard of beauty intrinsic to me and to Black people? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, I was trying to pull this up. But you remember when Shea Moisture, they did this ad campaign.
And they had the white people on there?
Yeah. And it excluded any representation of the core Black audience, you know. And the ad, you know, really glossed over the history and social hardships. I hate to call it social hardships, but social issues, many of which may have certainly been hardships that Black women in particular experienced in association with Black hair stereotypes when compared to other cultural groups.
Mm-hmm.
If I look around the world, excuse me, most other people that we encounter, their hair looks pretty much the same. You know, I don't speak in terms of grade because it's too loaded a term for me. But in terms of, you know, texture and stuff like that, I'm perhaps, you know, wrong, but the texture of most people here in the rest of the world outside of Black people pretty much looks the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I don't know that there are any other people in the world who have this this experience or have this history, you know, around and connected to hair and stuff like that. So,
you know what? It's interesting because I forget exactly what it's called, but it's called uncombable. The layman's term is uncombable hair syndrome. For white people, they say Einstein had it, which is why you always see those pictures of his hair sticking straight up. But they say it's some type of static in white people's hair who have the straight hair, and then some of them have kind of curly hair. But they call it some type of uncombable syndrome because they have to use gels and things of that nature to keep the hair down.
I wouldn't know.
I was doing some research. I don't remember why.
Indeed. You know, okay. Uncombable.
Uncombable. Yeah. So
Albert Einstein was a multi-genius.
You know,
who could wear his hair any way he wanted to. George Washington Carver was more of a multi-genius than Albert Einstein was because he was a scientist in several areas: zoology, aquaculture, agriculture, biology, anatomy, you know, and he was an engineer. And beyond that, he was an artist. And I mean, a very accomplished artist.
I didn't know that.
Oh man, you should see some of his still lifes of flowers and stuff like that. I mean, of course, this is somebody who's very well acquainted with the anatomy of a flower. So, right. Who on top of being able to do it, he can look at that and he can, he knows the details.
Yes.
Beautiful stuff. And not only that, but paints that he made from like the shells of pecans, or paints that he made from dried, powder of sweet potato and stuff like that or whatever.
Yes.
Which is why I love Tuskegee. I love visiting Tuskegee. But George Washington Carver, I tell you this, he couldn't wear his hair like Albert Einstein. And George Washington Carver worked on a campus whose benefactors were white men who loved supporting spaces where Black people were in their place, where they were being taught bricklaying, a wonderful skill to have, where they were being taught, the kind of things that would make them good workers. Now, of course, Black people stay putting white folks in the trick bag. And when they show up, we're going to show y'all sewing and such or whatever. But when they leave, it's time to really engage our intellectual capabilities. But George Washington Carver, could not have worn his hair. As eccentric as George Washington Carver was, he couldn't have worn his hair any old kind of way. Hell, Cornel West only started wearing his hair that way. If you look at the cover of Race Matters, he has a very neatly tapered, small TWA, teeny weeny afro. Saying this is somebody who's accomplished. I don't imagine Cornel West, even with all that he's accomplished, could have started off in the academy with his hair that way.
I've always wondered about Frederick Douglass, because when you look at old pictures of everyone else, everyone had the low cuts like you're talking about, but Frederick Douglass always had the big hair. You know what I'm saying? And in understanding what Black hair is like, I know he had to maintain that. You know what I'm saying? He couldn't just go to bed at night and wake up and his hair looked like that. You know what I'm saying? And so I always wondered if he was an eccentric or a rebel in that sort when it came to his hair, because I don't remember seeing, I remember seeing one picture of his hair tapered and then high at the top, kind of like it's popular now. But all other pictures I've seen, he's had big hair, and I've never seen any other professional man from that time with hair. But I never seen anything about his hair because I don't even know if hair was a politic at that point. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure it was, because it had something to do with a Black body, but that is interesting. But that is something I've always wondered, because he always had long hair, and it kind of reminds me of where Cornel West's hair got later in life, right? And you just talking about how he didn't even have short hair in the beginning of his academic career. You know what I'm saying? Us, as really not really that old, kind of young adult, you know what I'm saying? Young adult, still having issues with our hair. And really, if you look at where we are, like what genre we're in, it's the only reason why we've probably been able to have the type of hair that we have for as long as we have, right? Educator and artist. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you guys know this, but outside of being an educator and a Black scholar, advocate, things of that, Ryan is a musician. He's a singer. Like, he plays the drums. Completely artistic. 100% artistic, and so that's why I find really interesting, outside of that, the conservative, for lack of a better word, the conservative things that you do, you know what I'm saying? You are very artistic, you know what I'm saying? And then people can also gauge that just from having a conversation with you, you know what I'm saying? You're not no stuffed shirt, which is why I invited you to Twitter So Black Men, you know what I'm saying? Because we don't have nobody on here like this.
Nah.
Yeah, we can't do that, So
I don't mind the stuffed shirts uniform, because what I'm saying, I like the dress up, but certainly I agree.
But the energy, right? So I'm not talking because I like a man in a suit. You know what I'm saying? I like a man as casual, but I like suspenders. I like all that. You know what I'm saying? So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you got suspenders. I'm just saying there's not there. We come in all forms, but I'm talking about your energy, right? Yeah. You can come with stuffed energy in sweatpants. So yeah,
seen it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about what you were saying about Frederick Douglass. If you look at some of the news or the journalistic writing contemporaneous to Frederick Douglass, you see almost to a person people mentioning his shock of hair.
That's true.
Yeah, and then when he got older, they started calling him the Lion of Anacostia.
Yes.
And saying folks directly related that to Frederick Douglass's hair. And there's even, there's You remember Professor Mark White?
That sounds really familiar. He
He
went
was
to.
he was at Lake Forest for maybe that last year, and then he kind of moved on. His daughter was there actually for a while. I think
Okay.
you were there.
Okay.
Right. Anyhow, he talked about I had a class about Black rhetoric with him, and it was only a few of us, so it ended up being just an independent study. And so in that class about Black rhetoric or whatever, he talked about, you know what I'm saying, some of the physical affects that Black people have brought to oratory, and to explore those and to think about them. You know, you think about Elizabeth Baumfree, you know, who named herself Sojourner Truth, who was good and, you know, 6'1", 6'2", at a time when the average man's height was well below 6 feet. You know what I'm saying? Big, broad-shouldered, dark-skinned Black woman. So he talked about her and how she, you know, how she used her physical presence to influence people within the context of her rhetoric. And he talked about Frederick Douglass also, you know what I'm saying? Because here you take this man across the sea to liberal outposts in Scotland and across the United Kingdom and other spots in Europe, who folks who certainly have not seen Black folks on a regular basis, but definitely have not seen this tall, formerly enslaved person with this shock of hair. And then comes out of his mouth with the most eloquent and persuasive words. Yeah. So he used that to great effect. You know, I would say that Bob Marley is another person who popularized, really, let's just be for real, who popularized locks. And I'm gonna be honest, was certainly an influence for me. You know, wearing locks and loving them and being proud of them, stuff like that. And I remember this girl used to call me Bob Marley as an insult. And I was like, oh.
It's an insult? She crazy?
You know, I was like, okay, well, stick with that one. You know, how, I mean, you look at Bob Marley's performance sometimes, and his hair is almost just as much a part of the performance as the rest of them is. And, you know, I think Black hair speaks a whole lot louder than other folks' hair, because Black hair holds infinite possibilities. I don't know anybody in the world who can wear their hair in the hundreds and hundreds of styles that Black people concoct on a regular basis. I didn't think that there were new styles to be made. You look up every day, it's a new one.
Every day.
A nut.
Every day. I love it. I'm so thankful for the internet.
Yeah, and I'm not mad because, you know, Basquiat was probably about an anomaly for wearing his hair so freely. But of course, nobody was going to say, like, oh my God, he can't do that. I mean, he's an artist. He's an artist in New York in the punk era, in the era, in the birth of hip hop era. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he represents that. And, you know, so other folks, you know, I don't imagine there was somebody who could walk into their post office job with hair like Basquiat without encountering some problem that was going to have him sitting in the EEOC office filing complaints.
Right.
So, you know, this is at a time, I mean, hell, you're talking about in the 80s when there were still school districts that required their women teachers to wear pantyhose.
Right.
Or to wear skirts below the knee.
Skirts, and can't wear pants. Man, crazy thing. I just saw this post from another person I graduated from Syracuse with in our same age bracket, but she works in like in internal affairs, literally is like an ambassador, you know what I'm saying? Overseas, things of that nature. And she was told or sent an email somewhere she's ambassading, you know what I'm saying? That she can't wear, if she wears pants to another meeting, she won't be let in. So she posted on Facebook, like, I just got this email. How should I respond? And everybody's like, "Are you crazy? EOC violation." And so, but the point is, this woman has a freaking doctorate. She's been doing her job. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's been, because I follow her on Facebook. She's my friend. She's been to I don't know how many countries. I don't know how many liaison negotiations, and now you talking to her about some pants? Yeah. That's why certain people have certain jobs. I'm not made for negotiations and ambassador situations, apparently.
But you know, folks, I was thinking back to something you said also about like hair length. Folks, this guy told me and my brother Joe, of course, he wears locks a little shorter than mine. And somebody told us, and I thought this was like the stupidest thing I'd ever heard, that if he had long hair, he wouldn't date a woman whose hair was shorter than his. And I was like, but you date women, so what this has to. It was completely insane. But I mean, people put a lot of stock in hair length and
they come up with random rules.
It's weird. So I'm thinking to myself, I was like, knee long? You remember she used to wear that look? You'd be like, no, thank you to knee long.
Okay.
Okay.
Over here lying to self, just lying for no reason.
Yeah, but I mean, like, man, folks are fighting. I mean, there's a group of women, and I remember me and my mom were standing in line at Yellow Van Zandt. This is when kind of at the premiere of her popularity back in like the mid to late 90s. And I remember Pyramid Art Gallery, Hearn Fine Art and Custom Framing, right there at the corner of Chester and Wright Avenue, in the heart of the Paul Lawrence Dunbar neighborhood.
I say, my community, yes,
absolutely, that's right. She had a book signing, and we were standing in line, and I remember, this was a lady from Kansas City, and she had her head like completely shaved. I'm talking about like shiny shaved.
Mm-hmm.
What the barbers call a murder one, close to the head. And she was talking to my mom, and I was very fascinated with her because, like, here's somebody who is out here in public with a shiny bald head. Certainly, and I'm just saying, based on the way she was dressed, I can assume from that point in my life that she was a woman. She identified as a woman, and I mean, shaved her head. And I mean, not because in my mind, I'm wondering, did something happen? Maybe is this But she talked. She heard my mom talking. Like I said, this is at the point my mom was wearing her hair short, and she said, "Yeah, I'm a part of a group in Kansas City called Funky Baldhead Sisters." And I was like, "Oh man, get out of here!" And it was funny because not long after that, I encountered, the Ohio Players. They had a single called Ecstasy, and on the front of that single, it's a beautiful woman, the longest lashes in the world, it seems like, but she is kind of embraced with this guy, and she has a head shaved bald, and it is both amazing and shameful that a lot of people would say that women like them, women like my mother, are brave, are people like you who from childhood was wearing your hair this way, that you were brave to do this. Now, don't get me wrong. Bravery manifests itself in lots of different ways. And dealing with some of our people, you know what I'm saying? You got to be at least a little bit intrepid to deal with them about that hair, that hair.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just like, but part of me wonders, why can't folks just live? Like, why do you have to? Why
do I have to be brave?
Yeah, like why I got to get up and face the day? So every time I walk out the door, saying based on that. And I think it's kind of a twofold thing. One is that Black people take hair very seriously, or the head or whatever is on your head or not. They take that very seriously. And two, white supremacy has done a number on Black people. An absolute number on Black folks. You know what I'm saying? We can have this conversation. They get to be so circular to the point we don't even know whether we're coming or going. We'll mess up friendships and lose allies and say incorrect stuff. And it just, it's kind of messy. Like I anyway, I'm sorry. I have 3 screens on my desk now.
And it's discombobulated.
I just don't even know how to I don't even know what to do with that. But yeah, I forgot. I don't know.
No worries. No, because but I it's cool because I was gonna say just based on the conversation, like hair is super tricky for Black people. You know what I'm saying? For people in general, because hair is important for people in general, right? Hair is something that we associate very closely with aesthetic, right? With our personal beauty and things of that nature. That's why when Black women go, a lot of Black women go natural, and they have that big chop. It's a really big deal, the big chop. You know what I'm saying? A lot of women skip the big chop, and they're like, "Oh, you missed the experience of of going through the phases, all of that." But we do take hair seriously, and we can often become self-righteous to a certain extent. You know what I'm saying? I definitely, in my younger lock journey, found myself being quite self-righteous. You know what I'm saying? When it came to locks, well, just because people want to compare themselves to you based on your locks. And when we locked our hair for different reasons, it's not a comparison, right? Like it is a camaraderie between someone who locked their hair for spiritual reasons. But when you just lock your hair aesthetically and like it's nothing to you, it's not really camaraderie there. You know what I'm saying? If you can cut it off at and so I don't know.
Yeah, and then the fact is, Candace Owens, I can't think of a more despicable person could lock her hair tomorrow. I kind of wish she would, because it looked like her husband is doing it at this point. But yeah. Anyway, let me be quiet.
Terrible, right? I feel you. Candace Owens could lock her hair. I feel you. Keep on going. Mm-hmm.
And she would still be
Candace Owens.
She would still be a sycophant of the super white right. I mean, Candace Owens is a pet to white folks, and I mean, and so I don't think it would matter to them whether or not she did something like that. I was gonna say something else, but
okay. Well,
lose a stain.
No worries. Well, all I was saying with that point is that I definitely have, in my earlier lock journey, I definitely was at a point where not necessarily self-righteous to the point where I was judgmental of other people, you know what I'm saying? But definitely I felt a certain kind of way, you know what I'm saying? But like you said, I've run into all kinds of people where you, like you said, your hair don't really represent your spirit, you know what I'm saying? And and because natural hair has become so stylized, right? And it is healthier. It is healthier. So a lot of people are making the trend to just have healthier choices. So you can't really pinpoint a person's spiritual nature or aesthetic based on their hair where you could before, right? Maria has natural hair. Tim has natural hair. I can name all these people with really positive light energy who are similar to me in mindset and creativity, by their hair. Whereas now I can't do that anymore. You see what I'm saying? So I really do feel like it's been a really big transition. And I think it's interesting because I don't think a lot of people understand the weight that their hair politic carries, right? They're just carrying the politic of the hair without understanding that they're really carrying the politic on their head, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? And so that makes me nervous as well. You don't even know, like, what you're carrying. You know what I'm saying? You don't understand any of your personal history. You don't know anything about self. You don't know anything about your kink, And so I just think it would be beneficial if you did learn a little bit about self. And I really thought it was dope the way we started with that Facebook post where she was talking about how, young, rich Black men, right? And I love that she's saying young is 50 and 60, because 50 and 60 is young. If you living to be 100, baby, you got 30 more years after 60. That's very young. Right? So if you 35, look how much time you got to work and get your stuff together. You know what I'm saying? You can still live a beautiful life, I think a lot of times we think it's over at 35, 40. No, we just getting started. You just getting started, Long story short, my point, right? Basquiat, right? She was talking about how these young, rich Black men can now move in the energy that they want. I'm very big on ancestral energy. So when I see Jay-Z's hair like that, I feel like he's literally transmuting Basquiat. You know what I'm saying? This $110 million painting that just got, I need that energy on my head. You know what I'm saying? Let my stuff sell for 110 million. Let me carry this hip hop punk energy that, you know what I'm saying? So I think it's really beautiful when they start, allowing their antenna, right? Some people refer to locks as antenna, as far as your ability to pick up on the environmental signals and things of that nature. And a lot of times, particularly with Jay-Z, right? we see him going on some type of spiritual journey. And I don't even follow Jay-Z like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not like a big fan. I don't know all his music, but he's on my feed enough and in my face enough for me to see his growth, right? For me to see his transition. It's literally physically visible, right? You can see it in his aesthetic. You can see it in his spiritual energy. You can see it physically. His body is changing, right? The way he speaks, his interviews are changing, right? Everything about him is changing along with his hair and his mindset, right? Which is kind of what many people expect to happen, are used to expect to happen when your hair transforms. They expected a physical, emotional, spiritual, mental transformation to happen as well. And I think kind of what we're saying is that doesn't always come along, right? It's not something that naturally happens when you lock your hair. You don't naturally spiritually change, but a lot of times in that spiritual changing process, you do transform your hair, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, I appreciate you for the reminder because you know, I my and part of it because maybe I'm just not paying attention to Jay-Z in particular. But you know, I just pray that his politics and his lean into mega capitalism also changes. You know, but I mean, but yeah, I certainly agree. I mean, you know, I think, you know, nobody can say that the Jay-Z of you know, 1996 or 97 is the same person that he is today. I mean, you see that thoughtfulness in some of his lyrics. So yeah, I mean, yeah, certainly, definitely, 100% agree with that. And you know, for some folks, it is a you know, you talk about this for yourself. I mean, it is a meaningful journey. Mm-hmm. You know, but I think again, because of how intrinsic hair is to Black people and in Black culture, that happens in a lot of spaces. You know, I think about, you know, folks can probably tell you the first time that they got a haircut, they went to a barbershop, and they sat in a beautician's chair, you know, and what that meant for them growing up, you know, how that you know, kind of ushered them into another part of the community. You know, folks can tell you, there are folks who will tell you stories about how you remember Suge Avery said in The Color Purple that she loves Celie because she scratches out her head, and you know, say, but there are folks who can tell you wonderful stories about folks they love.
Tied to their hair, yes.
And you know, someone maybe braiding the hair. The first time you got a big girl hairstyle, you know, my girls can talk about that. The first time they went to beautician and got the twist out, you couldn't stop them from being in the mirror and looking at it.
Okay, yes.
And I imagine, you know, that's a universal. I mean, maybe that's a universal thing. But I also know that among the Blacks, that is a particularly important and meaningful something. You know, just connected to hair in general. I just don't really know though Black folks for whom, you know, hair does not have at least some import at some point in their life. You know, and so, you know, I wish I could see the picture again. I'm sorry, I was trying to navigate back to it, but to see who else was in the picture and stuff like that.
I got you. I can share. That's not a problem. Let me share for you.
I mean, you know, Lil Wayne, who looks like a dried
right? Yeah, I forgot all about him. His hair, yes. He showed it the Basquiat thing too. It's like a whole bunch of them. And but then I don't really know football players, so I didn't notice any. Oh, here they go.
It's weird because you know, his hair went from his hair changed and looks like it might have signified some sort of change in him. But I mean, you know, you saw in his I don't know, some sort of something induced craze he's living in right now. I don't know, looking like a fruit bat. But
yes, can you see the screen? Am I sharing?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So I think it's J. Cole, Basquiat, Jay-Z, and I don't know who that is. I guess I do. I know that face. What's his name?
This guy?
Yeah, the football player. Isn't he the one who's very controversial?
So don't give me the lie.
There's this one black football player with locks who like super controversial, and I always hear about him, but because I don't follow football, I'm not super familiar. But yeah, I don't know who that is though. But yeah, they were talking about these 4 people. Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. So I and I kind of think I heard you say something maybe because you were talking about your cousin or your aunt that was a couple years older than you who got her locks a little bit after you, and you talked about Joe. Anyway, long story short, so I remember, and let me go back to this page so I can. I remember going natural. I remember when I went natural in the 9th grade, and she cut my hair all the way off. She let me, because my hair was super damaged from like perms, and so she had to cut it all off, right? So it was like super low. She put some kind of stuff in it, not perm stuff, but like stuff to like for my curl to like look
like a texturizer.
Yes. I think it was maybe Jerry curl, some mess like that, but it wasn't dripping. You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't dripping, right? But it was super low. It was super low on the sides, and I had like a little bit of hair up here, maybe like half an inch.
Yeah.
I remember like just looking at myself in the mirror and like crying, like tears, being completely devastated. But knowing, and then the first day of 8th or 9th grade was the next day. Right, the first day of school was the next day. My big thing was like, if we're gonna cut it off, I gotta start the school year bald headed. I'm not gonna go in the middle of the school year and be, you know what I'm saying? I gotta come in, and everybody's gonna, you know what I'm saying? I gotta get the looks over with, you know. So I already knew. I was like, deep breath. You know, I just remember bracing myself as I went to school, and I had already decided on tunnel vision. I wasn't going to see nobody. I didn't care who was standing. I didn't care I don't care if they do this whole, I don't see nothing. I'm walking in a straight line. I had my best friend who was also my boyfriend at the time. He hadn't seen my hair, but I knew he was going to like me regardless. It didn't matter, right? I was going to make a beeline for him, and we was going to be fine. And so I remember that's what I did my first day. But I also remember my mom asking me, she was like, baby, do you want me to cut my hair off? And I was like, you know, there's no need for 2 of us to be ugly. You know what I'm saying? I literally remember saying that to her. There's no need for 2 of us to be ugly. And so, but over time, I got used to my hair, right? And later, my mom ended up cutting off her natural hair. And then I had friends who ended up cutting off their natural hair. I remember not really understanding the impact of it. And another girl coming to me in junior high, not junior high, but junior or senior year. And she was like, hey, I cut my hair. And I was kind of like, oh, okay. But I didn't understand because that's all she said, that she cut her hair too. And it was a big deal now because now it was 2 black girls at school with low hair. You know what I'm saying? And so I didn't understand the weight of my natural hair, right? Because for me, it was always a burden. It wasn't really like, you know, hey, I'm doing it. People thought I was doing it because I was pro-black, because I was pro-black. You know what I'm saying? But I just had hair issues, right? And then by the time I got in 10th, 11th, 12th grade, at that point, yes, I was, but definitely not in middle school, you know? But I said all that to say, when I locked my hair, my family started to lock their hair. When I went natural, my family started to go natural, right? They were more inquisitive. They were more curious. And now when I say my family, not everybody in my family, but I think people who were kind of on the fence before, you know what I'm saying? You know how I think you said something before where you were like, people take out their anger or their fear on you. You know what I'm saying? So, because if they wore their hair like that, you know what I'm saying, they would feel it. Does that make sense? And so I feel like by me wearing my hair a certain way, people either felt the courage to go ahead and take that step themselves, or they might have felt bitter because they wouldn't be willing to take that step, right? And even after all these years, and you see me with natural hair and locks, right? I've had my locks for I don't know how long now, but you know that locks will grow your hair. I still have people, particularly family members, that I know that will not let their hair go natural or lock it up. I'm like, if you want to grow your hair, boo, just lock it up. If you want it to grow past the 10 inches you got, lock it up. You know? But we can't have these conversations. Okay, I'm sorry. Saucy. Sorry. It just aggravates me. It makes me angry.
Yeah. I mean, but you know what, Tyler, you're absolutely right, because I mean, it is in black hair just it naturally carries a message. And that didn't come out of, I mean, you know what I'm saying, that didn't come up out the Cabbage Patch, you know what I'm saying? It's not, it just came out of nowhere. But I mean, if you look at the history, I mean, particularly, you know, if you think about the kind of Black people who came to the Americas, you know, you're talking about Wolof, Mende, Mendingo, Yoruba, Ibibio, folks like that. But these are people who filled these ships that sailed to the Western Hemisphere, and in their culture, hair is an integral part of a complex language system, even. So the fact that when you walk into a room right now and your hair speaks is not something that you know what I'm saying, that just came out of nowhere. So of course folks saw you and they thought like, oh, she's wearing her hair like that, she must be pro-Black. You know, and so, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think what becomes wrong is when we start saying that, when we start, you know, kind of having these kind of purity tests. You know, you're in this camp, you are in this camp. You know,
almost like that paper bag test. Yes. Yeah, and I'm so glad you said it just like that. Because a lot of times we beat around the bush, but yeah, we do have these purity tests when it comes to BS like them. And and not only with hair, with culture as well. My auntie, I talked about this on another post, but my auntie, she posted on something because she's been learning more about Black culture. Because you know, young Black people into themselves. We know how to do Instagram and stuff, so we posting our videos and stuff. And she is an old head, someone who has been studying Black culture her own whole life on her own. You know, not in school, things of that nature, but on her own independently. So she comments on it and she says, "Amen." Because she didn't say Ashe. They go in. She a coon and all kinds of backwards and part of the conspiracy off of a term. Like, do you know how backwards you sound and how out of place and out of contact? You know what I'm saying? And so that's really what's starting to scare me. It's starting to scare me that like people are getting hold of a very small amount of knowledge, right? They get a lock on their head, right? And so I think it seems like I've been talking about the other end of the spectrum of people who wear locks just like, you know, for style. I don't think you can do that. If you want to grow your hair out. But I'm talking about people who get a lock and then all of a sudden you become the bearer of all knowledge and you become super righteous and you become the controller of all Black culture. You know what I'm saying? All Black hair politics. You know what I'm saying? You can't say amen. You gotta say Ashe over here. And I'm the Ashe queen. You know, I love Ashe. But I take amen as well. You know what I'm saying? I ain't mad at you.
Absolutely. I'll take any form of I take the agreement in any language.
You know?
And that's weird because, you know, folks, I'm just like, do you know any other Swahili words beyond Ashe? Because if you're not speaking it fluently, then I don't think you need to worry about what folks are saying. I thought about this too. There's in Haitian, excuse me, well, Haitian too, but in the nexus of it, of course, is Yoruba mythology. You know about this. In Yoruba mythology, the double-headed axe that's used by Shango is called the Oshe. And so I remember someone saying Ashe, and you remember Professor Paul Orogun?
Yes.
He thought they were saying Oshe. He said, no. Don't bring the axe to me. Okay. Don't bring the axe to me.
Okay. Yeah. Don't bring that fire.
You know, I don't know.
Love it. Right.
And there's another, you know, we're talking about hair and meaning. And there's the, because I want you to know, China, I prepared for this discussion today. And
well, let's see your notes. I'm ready.
There's a book I have called Hair Story. It's called Untangling the Roots of Black Hair in America. And I want you to know that it's probably one of the most thorough scholarly works on the history of and the context of Black hair. It was published in, it might be like 20 years old or something like that. Or whatever. But it's by Ayanna Bird and Lori Tharp. It's a collection of essays. And this is one of those titles. This is when I first began to understand knew who Melissa Harris Perry. You probably remember her. I guess she's at Tulane, but she had a show on TV or something like that or whatever. Anyhow, but she was published by it. But I mean, it talks about Black hair over 600 years. It talks from 1400. It begins in its title. The title of its first essay chapter is Black Hair in Bondage. You know. And it talks. I mean, it's speaking in literal and figurative terms. But it's a wonderful work. But it talks about, before it talks about it begins talking about the story starts in Africa, of course. It talks about how hair, just hair in general in Africa, how the cultural significance of it, how it indicates your marital status, your age, your religion, your ethnic identity, your wealth, your rank with the community. And I think about how does that correlate to today anyway. And I think about the fact, I was telling somebody that Delaney, she wants a more grown up hairstyle because she's going to middle school next year. So she feels like she's getting, but I mean, we still kind of like, well, nah, And I thought about that. There are some hairstyles that identify with being a child.
Yes.
There are some ways now with your locks, and people are often mystified that you can wear locks in so many different ways. But I could tell, China, if you wore your locks in a particular way, I'd be like, oh, where you getting ready to go? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because this you wearing it that way, you do
fancy.
But even they talked about among the Ibibio in Nigeria that there was a certain hairstyle that women who were living in a polygamous society, they created a hairstyle that they used to. The book says something like to taunt, but I say to stun on one of the other wives, and it's called the Kohen Sorogun, and it means literally turn your back to the jealous rival. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, and look, because the hairstyle was meant to be seen from behind. You know what I'm saying? The most stylized part of that hairstyle, the most intricate part of it, was to be seen from behind. And so I mean, like, black hair is such an intricately woven story. And I think we just have to, as Black folks, we got to make space for each other. You know what I'm saying? Nobody can tell me that James Brown was any less Black, or that Al Sharpton, God bless him. God bless Al Sharpton, that Al Sharpton is any less Black, or that, I don't know, that Kathleen Cleaver and Angela Davis, as light as they were, are less Black, or that they are. There was a criticism of Kathleen Cleaver in the early days of the Black Panther Party, that she was damn near white, that the only reason she was wearing her hair in an afro was just to prove to folks that she was Black. And it's I think that's an unfortunate thing. Unfortunate thing.
Yeah. Okay. As we wrap up, because I've been thinking about our last question, and in the comment, it was definitely fully sparked by you. So I'm gonna give you all your credit, because we were talking about plagiarism in class, right? Give credit where credit's due. It's all yours. Okay. It was completely sparked by Ryan Davis. Okay. But at the beginning of the conversation, you talked about Miss Blevins. Okay. I literally remember walking into my science class, 10th grade year, and seeing this woman with this Nefertiti cut and being like, wow. And not feeling alone. You know what I'm saying? Because I had a fro. You know what I'm saying? But like, her stuff was on fleek. It was way higher, very nicely done, clearly African-centered, clearly reflective of Egypt. You know that's what she's talking about. You know that she's saying I'm queen. Clearly saying that's what her hair said, queen present, right? And everybody, and nobody ever said anything about her hair unless they was like 10 blocks down the hallway away from her, and there was always somebody like, you lying, because that's fine. You know her hair fire, you a hater. She got the coldest cut in the whole entire school building. You know what I'm saying? And then the devastation I felt when she finally cut it off. And this was when I was in college. I came back and it was gone. What? She's like, yeah, I had to let it go. It had been like 30 years. 30 years is a long time for it. I don't remember if it was that long, but it was something like that was really long. But I said, but where we're going over is like amazing hair experiences. So I just need 3, right? So 1, Miss Blevins, right? She, for me. 2, and my mom has a best friend whose name is Caddy. The whole time I've known her, she's always almost had a bald fade. always, right? And her hair is silver, right? She's one of those people who grade young, so she's always had a silver head that was super low. You know what I'm saying? Even when it was black, it was like super so low that it looked straight to the scalp. You know what I'm saying? Like she got kinky hair, but like when it just looks like it just gonna glide, right? And she's a professional journalist. She's a go-getter, you know what I'm saying? She lived in New York for several years. And then when I think of New York, I think of hustle and bustle. And so I've always admired, you know what I'm saying, that she could go out there and get it with her low cut. And she always is low man. It was easy. I can be a bitch. I can do what I need to do because I don't have to think about my hair. You know, so I always put her on like a kind of pedestal for that, right? For her hair. And finally, my hair crush, the hair goddess, whom I grew up on. Like anybody who knows me knows she can do no wrong. But she's changed her name, so I will call her by her new title, Miss Hill, Ashe.
Yeah.
Locks, right? Then she went natural later. I love Lauryn Hill. I don't care if she only came out with one album. That's all she needed. Ashe. Okay, she came out with another one recently. Okay, we had the Unplugged album. But anyway, but those were my 3 big hair influences outside of people directly in my family. You know what I'm saying? But like those were for whatever reason, when I encountered those people, like they shook me in some way. And Dr. D, I can't include her because she's number 4. But Dr. D, when I met her, her locks was like all the way down, almost to her knees, right? And she had this little raspy voice, and she's super cool, super chill, got this crazy, amazing, relaxed swag. You know, always, you know, what you want to, just amazing. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, but like these were my hair people. I was like, okay, China, you are not alone. There are people who are dope and have similar spiritual energy. You see what I'm saying? Dr. D, they carry certain energy, you know what I'm saying? But now, you know, yeah, Ashe, your hair precious, Ashe.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, my mom, who does not wear locks, but you know what I'm saying, she had the presence of mind and the bravery to cut her hair off and not really give a shit what folks thought about it.
Shout out to Linda Davis because she was in the timeline a while ago, and I meant to shout her out then. Shout out because she said, "I heard you, boo." She said that at 6:18. So I was like, "Get in here, mommy been on here." Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And then had the nerve to dye blonde, and then
she did.
Like, oh, I thought somebody had something to say. You
Okay.
know? And so, you know, it didn't even occur to me to feel like, you know, I was approaching this with any type of fear or any type of trepidation and stuff like that or whatever. And then on top of that, you know, I went back and forth for about a year, and I go get cut. I mean, it was never an issue. It was never something I was made to feel bad or at odds about, or it would have been one of those things where I think, you know, even some folks who consider themselves reasonable would say, well, consider what you're doing your hair like this. Mm-hmm. My mom was like, looks good. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, number one. Number 2, you know, and this is absolutely cliche, and I'm fine with that. But you know, Robert Nesta Marley, who I think is one of the most authentic people in the history of this world and stuff like that or whatever. I mean, you know, so somebody who I always admired. I mean, I never had like, you know, the multicolored black light posters of them up and stuff like that or whatever. But I mean, I remember Patrick Oliver would play his album, Burning Spears album. He played the Legends album, like the Bob Marley, kind of like the greatest hits. So, and I was working at Kumba Cafe and Images of Africa, and I'd be there the whole time, either reading or listening to Bob Marley. So he played that and D'Angelo's Brown Sugar album. I know all of those. Word of those albums by heart. Yeah. And so, you know, Bob Marley's lyrics are some of the most deceptively simple, but revolutionary and meaningful ones that you'll ever hear. Somebody who had a really short-lived career, but you know, really had a really proletarian influence on me. And then, you know, if I can name them collectively, folks like Changus Bell, Tim Anthony, and even Jimmy Cheffin, who I met at an impressionable age. I mean, I met all of those guys around 15, 16 and stuff like that or whatever. And you know what I'm saying? They were at that point some of the most free people I'd ever seen, you know. And so, you know, we would, you know, and treated me as a peer. I mean, even though significantly older than me, not flat. You know what I'm saying? They were certainly older than a 15-year-old. I mean, they hung around, you know what I'm saying? But I just really kind of admired, for what it's worth, who they were, in the immediate community. That they could be that, and that they wore their hair like that unashamedly. And I mean, and it wasn't even like a declarative thing for them. I mean, I don't remember that they wore it on their shoulders, or that they had placards, walking around with explaining who they were in connection to their hair. But just that they very naturally, but very forthrightly, wore their hair that way. And so I'm saying all that to say that at the point where I just kind of randomly chose to twist my hair up, and my cousin Karen helped me, it didn't come to me. It wasn't like a swelling inside of me. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't a summoning of ancestral power or nothing like that or whatever. But it was comfortable.
Yes.
Easy.
Yes.
And it still is. So thank you to those people.
Ashe, right? And it's crazy. And well, I appreciate you saying it, because you saying that, and me saying Caddy, and you two saying Dr. Dozier, and Miss Blevins and Tim, and it reminds me of how old we are, right? Lord have mercy. We met them when we were this age, right? And then it just makes me understand the influence that we can have on younger people, because I have seen kids lock their hair, you know what I'm saying, right? I have seen kids not be afraid, young Black men not be afraid to wear freestyle locks, you know what I'm saying, and to move into that space. And I think that is really important when they can see themselves reflected in us, So
Fred McKendra, who your peer, your classmate, wonderful writer, thinker. We're fortunate to have him still here back here.
Professor at First Philanthropist College.
I want to come to your class, Fred, if you listen. But Fred said one time, and I don't mean this. I'm for my ego's sake, I have to say I don't mean this as flattery to myself. But Fred said, and it never even occurred to me. I can't remember what the context of the conversation was, but he was just like, yeah, people like Ryan, who were years ahead of me in school, are the people who I was looking at and made me feel good about locking my hair. Never thought about that. I never thought that, about that, and I'm not saying I'm the father of Fred's hairstyle. You know what I'm saying? But then I think about Fred's father, Mr. McKendra Sr. You know what I'm saying? Who
Frederick Douglass.
You hear me? And you're talking about somebody who looms large in this community for the work that he's done, foundations and organizations and community-based spaces and stuff like that or whatever. And somebody who, you know what I'm saying, who also taught me that you can wear your hair like that and still be respected, because you bring in something more valuable to the table than these people's, it's more valuable than these people's, Black and white, insecurity about what your hair means or what it might mean, So I forgot to say him. Can I have a fourth?
We sure can. Ashe. And I got a fifth, okay? Because I too. Yes, but this has been an amazing discussion. I knew it was going to be, right? As soon as I saw the post and you responded, I was like, yes, we're having a bomb discussion today on Black hair. And we can really go ahead.
I said, I can't believe we've gone for 2 hours.
I said, we could go on. You know what I'm saying? I almost feel like you could teach a whole course on it. You know what I'm saying? Because there are so many different levels. I mean, we probably couldn't just go on talking like we are just off the top of our head. But like you said, there was a lot of research that you had. There was research that I had, but we didn't even really touch on our research. We kind of just talked from our personal experience and from what we know and from that one Facebook post, because Black hair is so convoluted, and it's not just about hair. It's about so much more than that. You know what I'm saying? And so, but thank you for an amazing conversation, Ashe. But I knew it was gonna be dope. That's why he on 20 or so dope Black men I know. And you're gonna get your t-shirt. Yes, I make a t-shirt. Hey, Ashe. Yep, everybody who come on getting a t-shirt. And next time I see you, better be rocking it, because I'm gonna have to invite you back. Rock the shirt, you know what I'm saying? And my computer was acting really janky, but you will be getting your certificate for being an upstanding member, you know what I'm saying, of the Black community and being one of the 20 or so dope Black men on Educeumm, because we are really just grateful for your presence, you know what I'm saying? Thank you for representing for Black men, because we know that you're amazing, you know what I'm saying? But we need somebody out there letting the world know how amazing Black men are. Ashe? So I'm
thank you for doing what so many Black women have done and continue to do, which is to make space for their siblings, and to do that. And I want to challenge men, Black men in particular, to make the same kind of space for women like yourself. We talking about not just the host and creator of the Educeumm, but we're talking about a professor at Philander Smith College and influencing lives and imparting knowledge to people who hold the future in their hands. So I appreciate you as much as I appreciate our African ancestors who wove rice and watermelon seeds into their hair for that long passage, and who thus are still nourishing and feeding us today off of that. Speaking of hair, so I appreciate your time.
I say
you are Agnolia's daughter.
Huh?
I said you are Agnolia's daughter.
I say and mother.
She is
mother.
She and Agnolia's mother. And the first Agnolia is Mrs. Georgia May Hudson's daughter.
That's right.
That's right.
That's why we got these generations over here. I say we all got the generations.
Yeah.
But it's been an amazing episode. Ryan, you don't have to go nowhere because I just end and it ends the thing, but you're good. You stay right there. People leave all the time. Sorry. Anyway, thank you. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Be sure to go like the Educeumm page. If for some reason you didn't get to catch this, it will be on Facebook, but you can catch this one and all of the other shows on Cultural Immersion Media. Ashe, you can go visit us at Cultural Immersion media.com. And you can find out all the information. But if you want to watch us, you got to go to Roku. You got to go to streaming channels, and then you have to go type in Cultural Immersion Media, 3 words, and download us and add us to your channels. We're right next to Netflix, Hulu, all of those other places. So don't look for us on YouTube because you won't find us there, okay? But Roku is we're in the free channel, so you can actually just download the Roku app as well, because Roku is a free device, right? So it doesn't have to already be on your computer. So if you got Fire Stick or somebody else, just download Roku, and then you can find Cultural Immersion Media, Ashe, and you will see us on there, or you can check us out again on Facebook. But thank you guys so much for coming. Like the page so you can stay updated on everything that's happening. Peace and light. Ashe.